Hello and a very warm welcome back to the Gimme a Whole Year Wrestling podcast, another episode of Wrestling Rewind in which we focus on Wrestlemania 3.
Wrestlemania 3. I'm Ant.
And I'm Dom.
And today we're looking at Wrestlemania 3, which was infamous, wasn't it? It was a great pay-per-view, great to watch back.
Probably our favourite one we've done so far as well.
100%, easily. There's any of the most of the matches on this card, if you put them in the other pay-per-views, would have lifted the other pay-per-views, to be honest with you.
Yeah, most of the matches here are just tight, really well done. It was open air as well, which was fantastic. The most similar, I'd guess, to nowadays and kind of that kind of vibe. You know, the previous ones we've done have all felt kind of, I don't know, just a bit tedious and boring. Yeah, smaller. And
this one did feel massive. It was the 29th of March 1987 at the Pontiac Silverdome in Michigan. The America the Beautiful was sung by Aretha Franklin, and here's a little story for you. Aretha Franklin was actually nearly late to the event because the traffic was so bad, because it was 93 and a bit thousand people that was there, so the traffic around the arena was really bad. Aretha Franklin didn't get to do a sound test, went straight out and performed America the Beautiful, and I think she did a pretty good job. Absolutely, that's incredible. Very soulful version of it.
Just goes to show you as well, doesn't it? People can just go out and do those things and smash it.
Yeah, especially with it's hard to do that though with no monitor check and stuff like that. It's very difficult. The commentators for this event were Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse Ventura, and Jesse Ventura was in a snake leather jacket with his square earrings that were. Yeah,
he was on great form.
Oh, he was on great form. The commentating team in this is brilliant.
Just amazing. Like they were really on fire, and it's probably the best performance from the two as well. I thought, you know, of what we've
seen so far. When them two have been together, they carried a lot of the show. They're commentating, especially in the match between Macho Man and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, was on point. It was so good. A little shout out to Seth Eddy, who agreed with our point on managers on the first WrestleMania video. This WrestleMania includes, every match has a manager involved in it, except for one match, which is the match with little people. So every single one of the matches had a manager. So completely different to nowadays, where you've only really got Paul Heyman as a manager. Yeah, and also a lot of the managers, which is one of the things I'm not a big fan of in this era. A lot of the matches are managers recycled. They sort of have, you know, Jimmy
the same. Hart. Yeah, Jimmy Hart is used a lot. Slick is used a lot in this pay per view.
Yeah, Jimmy Hart. I think he's in like 5 or 6 matches. Heenan, well. But Heenan was great.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. So first match, the Can-Am Connection, which was Rick Martel and Tom Zenk. Versus Bob Orton and Magnificent Morocco. So if you're new to the series, we like to talk a little bit about the wrestlers who are new to the pay-per-view as we go through them. In this case, it's the Can-Am Connection. If you want to view any of the previous episodes, we go into a little bit of details about, for example, Bob Orton and Magnificent Morocco. So Rick Martel was a part of WWF in the early 80s, where he was tag team champions with Tony Gurria.
I remember him as the model.
The model comes a bit later. I always imagine the model gimmick whenever you say Rick Martel, and I think that was possibly his best run.
It was his best run, without doubt his best run. He was very much a Miz character for that day.
Yeah. Tony Gurria and him lost the belts to the Moondogs. However, they regained it after they regained it, they lost it to Mr. Fuji and Mr. Sato. And this was, again, early 80s sort of time.
Mr. Fuji
competing. A wrestler,
Exciting.
He'd later go on to form Strikeforce. This is just before he became the model, with Tito Santana.
I remember that, yeah.
There was a couple of years of it,
That was a good team. Hailed as one of the better ones of that era, I think.
Yeah, I think his best run was as the model. That's sort of infamous, isn't it? Because he was such a good heel.
He carried that on for a long time as well.
Yeah, and then Tom Zenk, he was the boyfriend of Martel's sister-in-law. So that was part of their link. Zenk left the company soon after, and Martel had apparently secretly negotiated a deal with Vince McMahon to get a higher pay. Now, in this day, if you was a tag team, you got paid the same. Both people got paid the same. There was a rumour going around that Rick Martel had got a higher deal off Vince, basically. However, Martel says it's just a rumour, so who knows what it is there. But Zenk did leave the company.
It wouldn't surprise me, to be fair. The model had a reputation for a little bit of dodgy dealing backstage.
Yeah, well, the faces in this match, and like it is so strange to see Martel in a
very
in a
much
face
is,
role.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever watched a match where he is actually. Yeah.
So the AM Connection are in white trunks with white knee pads, a look that I despise. Too much white. I've said before with Hulk Hogan, it looks like a diaper.
Yep.
The Can-Am Connection have the early lead with some great double team moves.
Yeah,
a lot of the tag team matches.
Yeah, good solid tag team match. Obviously, showcased. I think it showcased Martel pretty well.
It did, yeah.
And Zenk to a degree, but I think Martel came off.
Well, the double team moves continued, and we saw a lot of double team action in the tag team matches, which was really good. The end of it had Morocco Irish whipped Martel into the ropes. He jumped over a prone Zenk, comes back, crossbody. Morocco falls over the Zenk on the floor. So again, a really nice little tight spot and a good opening, I think, to WrestleMania. Not an incredible match, not a 5-star match, but a good opening.
It was good, and that crossbody was nice at the end. You know, the win.
Yeah.
For Martel and Zenk, I thought that was nicely done. You know, for a tag team, like I say, not one of Martel's best runs, like you say, but I thought it was a good showcase match for him particularly.
Yeah.
And I do like Morocco and on his heels.
Yeah,
some of the best heel singles and tag performers of that era.
In a way, it's a little sad to see Orton at the start of the card as well, though, because Orton had predominantly been later on in the card, headlining the first WrestleMania with Orndorff and Roddy Piper, who was in his corner, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Orndorff. There we go. I need to talk about him later, actually. So
it's all good. Moving on.
Yeah, Billy Jack Haynes versus Hercules Hernandez with Bobby Heenan.
With the brain. I like. You know what? We saw Billy Jack Haynes last time for the first time. I quite like him. I prefer his performance this time around. Both of the performers. I don't know whether it's because it's outside. I don't know whether it's because there was a little bit more build to this as a feud. But they both look pretty solid.
They did. This was the same match that we saw on the big event.
Yeah.
But this one had the stipulation of the full Nelson challenge, basically.
Yeah, where they were both exercising the full Nelson. I thought the the end was a little weak, obviously, because it ended up with it played up to the stipulation, but the whole, Haynes locking it in on the outside and going to the count out.
Yeah, count out.
You know, I mean, it did play up the finisher. It did play up the submission as a devastating hold.
The problem is, it isn't a devastating hold. That's
but they can make it look good. They can make it look good. Like Chris Masters in recent years did it with the Master Lock.
You see, I prefer the full Nelson slam as opposed to the full Nelson.
I always really like. I prefer the full Nelson to the sleeper, man. I think it's more. It looks, if you do it well and you start ragging the guy around and the guy leans forward.
Yeah.
And you're pressuring him.
I just think in this match it looked like they had the hands over the heads, and to me that doesn't look like a submission. You know.
Well, I suppose it's when you look at Jake the Snake doing it with Jimmy Hart later on in the event, and it's the same move pretty much.
Basically, holding him for Alice Cooper.
It's a little bit less, it's a little bit less impactful. But solid match. Count out was weak. Hercules looked good, better than he's ever looked before. Same with Billy Jack. I thought it was probably their better match. The pair's best match we've seen.
It was way better than the big event one. Well, there was a couple of really nice moments in it. Billy Jack Hayes did an awesome slam. It's a press slam, and so to hold Hercules, who was a big guy anyway, over his head, arms outreached, was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
There was a devastating clothesline at one point on Hercules. It was a hard hitting match, and much. When I saw the match card, I wasn't looking forward to
there's
rewatching
a lot of big event as well. There's a couple of big event repeats.
Yeah, and
it's
this was actually quite good.
The redemption for those matches, I think. Yeah. Nice. And then you got the six man tag with the little people.
Possibly the weakest point of the show.
Yeah, but then WWE, and still to this day, how we talk about how WWE recycles things. Still to this day, the little person. Matches that the WWE have always done have been little more than comic relief, which I disagree with. In Mexico and Japan, There's entire divisions, entire championships
dedicated
to little person matches, and I think they're fantastic. I've watched them in Lucha Underground, which I would advise, even though we're a WWE, WWF centric show. Lucha Underground is an exceptional television program, really well done, and it's done as a TV program, like a series with actual like movie type storylines. Rey Mysterio's there these days, Johnny Mundo or Johnny Nitro, depending on but they have great main event caliber matches with little people. So going back to this,
it was just so that our audience know who it is. It's King Kong Bundy with two little people versus Hillbilly Jim with two little people.
Yeah, so it's King Kong Bundy with, you've got Little Tokyo and Lord Little Brook. And then you've got Haiti Kid and Little Beaver.
Yeah, well, we talked about the Haiti Kid, about him being homeless in one of the previous episodes, which you can check out.
Yeah, he was probably the most notable one.
Yeah, I think Beaver had quite a lot.
I think Haiti Kid was the most notable in my opinion. I think Beaver did have the quite a good following as well internationally.
Yeah, well, obviously the Beaver ended up the match because.
King Kong Bundy give him an elbow, which was getting quite weak.
I'd watched a show interview with King Kong Bundy where he said that actually wasn't supposed to happen. Someone was supposed to drag him out of the way, but it never happened.
He did get dragged a little bit, didn't he?
Yeah, but not sort of completely out of the way. So you've got King Kong Bundy, who's massive, dropping
the elbow
on a little person. What do you think? So, do you think there's been any good examples within the WWF of little people?
The best run in terms of a major standout would have been Hornswoggle, I would have said.
What about
he won the cruiserweight
Dink?
Title? Yeah, but Dink was a little more. Pun not intended. He was little more than an understudy to Doink. When you look at impact in terms of, even though he was never taken seriously. By the way, Hornswoggle is currently contracted to TNA. If you want to see what he's doing now, Hornswoggle had the storyline with Vince McMahon. It was meant to be his illegitimate son, and then you had him win the cruiserweight title for a brief period of time. So again, he was billed a little more, especially when he debuted with Finlay. And Hornswoggle was supposed to be this Irish, leprechaun.
Yeah.
That was kind of ridiculous, but like with pretty much every one of these performers, they take the horrible gimmick they're handed and do a good run with it. Same with Dink at the time and Hornswoggle this time.
What I was going to say is I think there is one entertaining match, and it's a comedy match, but it's with Jerry the King Lawler and Doink and three little people, and both of them have three little people on the side, and I think Jerry the King Lawler starts getting people out, and I think it possibly ends with just Dink in the ring or something like that, but each of them hide under the ring and then run out. We'll cover it because it's in a pay-per-view coming up, so stay tuned. Next up we had an interview with Miss Elizabeth. Macho Man doesn't give her a chance to answer. Comes in, takes over, all about him. Wonderful promo. Yep. Absolutely wonderful promo, and this is establishing that he's Intercontinental Champion as well, which obviously plays into his later match. Next up we had the Junkyard Dog versus Harley Race with Moolah, the Queen of Wrestling, and Heenan as well.
There you go, and Harley Race obviously playing up his like King of the Ring type gimmick.
Yeah, which he won in July 1986.
And obviously I thought it was a decent match again. JYD puts on his showings. As far as I'm concerned, his showings in all the pay-per-views we've covered have been the consummate face, and he's done a great job. Harley Race again, great heel. I thought Junkyard Dog looked the strongest, and that's not because I'm a fan. I just thought he was really good. I thought the ending again with the belly to belly. I thought Race actually pulled off a really good belly to belly. That was really good.
Well, not just that. I think during the match he took a lot of bumps for an older guy, and really sold him as well. Made Junkyard Dog look really good.
Yeah. I mean that was probably probably the best belly to belly I've ever seen. Even when you look at Bailey's, and also I'm trying to think of other people that have done it, like Ken Shamrock and stuff, people that have done it throughout history. I thought that was a really good one. And then the ending, the ending was the loser had to kneel and bow. So Race gets the question. It was a weird one actually. I don't know whether that was a 3 count.
Yeah, no, it was a bit
weird. It was a weird 3. It felt like a 2 to me. But anyway, so they give Harley Race the win. and then JYD has to bow, but he doesn't really bow. He just kind of curtsies, and then attacks Harley Race with a chair, which is which is great. And of course, it doesn't matter that that the face attacks the heel with a chair because it's WrestleMania and everyone loves Junkyard Dog.
And Junkyard Dog leaves with the robe as well.
Yeah, he does. In the hat. Yeah, it's great. So that was a nice moment. Yeah. So it was a good match. Dream Team coming up. So the tag team match next. You got the we got the Dream Team.
The Rougeau brothers.
This was a rematch too.
Yes.
Better.
Yes, much better.
Much better. You got Valiant interfering at the end for the Dream Team.
I thought Valentine and Brutus looked amazing when they went to the ring. Like the robes. And obviously at the end of this match, it's sort of the breakup of the Dream Team as well, or the Dream Team moved on to incorporate another member because Dino Bravo was with them as well. Yep.
It's interesting with the two, because you'll notice later on in the pay-per-view, Beefcake comes out to help Roddy, so that was his kind of transition into face.
almost as the barber.
So it was, you see exactly. So the breakup of the Dream Team, which is very much a heel team, or not breakup, but the evolution, I guess, of the Dream Team, which is very much a heel team, was prompted by Beefcake becoming a
massive face,
becoming a massive
all in
face.
One pay-per-view as well. That's what's really nice as well, to sort of see the evolution of someone's character. Looking back at it within one pay-per-view is great.
And you're right. They both look really strong. Bravo obviously had a fairly decent role in this pay-per-view. One of the things I like to pick up on is that he actually had a tag team in the early 80s, and it was Dino and Dominic.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, and it was the Bravo brothers. Was a strong team for them through the 80s, before his time in World Wrestling Entertainment. He had a decent run, and then when he retired 1992, and again, like a lot of wrestlers from that period of time, went on to have his own wrestling school. But I thought, like I said, I thought that his showings, particularly with this pay-per-view and subsequent ones that we're going to cover, he came across really well. It was again a very sort of solid heel, and probably one of the more notable heels of that time.
One of the ones coming up, I think, is the Royal Rumble, where he does is it him that does the trying to lift the most weight or something, and they spend we'll get to that. I think the Royal Rumble's coming up.
Yeah, it is.
It takes so long, that segment, actually. It really irritates me. But no, he interfered in this match.
Yeah, cost the other team the win. The
Rougeau
brothers. Sorry, yeah.
But
it was a nice finisher, but for the Rougeau brothers too. Like that finisher was great. You know, where one of them hoists him up and then do this kind of whoopee cushion, which is a doink finisher. The whoopee cushion kind of attack from the top rope,
almost like Sasha Banks' double knees.
Yeah, probably my favourite finisher, tag team finisher of that time.
It's good
from what I've seen. Yeah, but anyway, and they rolled. It rolls into it, so it would have been a great finish as well. But then, of course, Dino Bravo gets involved.
But this is more about splitting up the Dino and moving Greg and Valentine and Dino all together, and keeping and turning Brutus into Brutus the Barber.
Yeah,
which meant that Brutus was left in the ring by himself. I didn't really get why he was so upset that they'd won with Dino Bravo.
Yeah, but it's a weird one. Maybe especially because they were a heel team, so you'd think he would have been fine with the cheap, with the cheap win.
They'd used heel tactics in the past.
Yeah. So, but I guess, and that moves us on nicely to we got Adonis and Piper.
Really underrated match, actually, in WrestleMania.
It's funny because Santino Marella had a brief feud with Piper when he came back to the WWE, and Santino Marella used it in a negative promo against Piper. It was like, your retirement match was against a fat transvestite. And so there's a nice little legacy piece to the match there. Obviously, Piper didn't retire, or it was
built as his last match.
Yeah, but then he had years worth of matches after that. Not as regularly. I don't think it was ever as a regular.
But he'd only just come back as a face anyway, hadn't he? So it was so that he could go film They Live and stuff. He was becoming a massive star in Hollywood.
A movie star. Well, it depends actually. Some of his movies are terrible.
Oh, They Live is good though, man.
Yeah,
They Live is good.
You know what? I need to properly watch that. I hear it's the best thing he's got. So I gotta watch it.
No, that's the Goldust match at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Oh God, which WrestleMania was it? 13?
Yeah, that was good.
Where they use the OJ.
I love that.
It's funny. So we had a video of the feud between Adonis and Piper. Obviously, while Piper had been away, Adonis had started to fill up that segment of the show, if you like, with the flower shop.
Yeah.
Piper came back, didn't like that was the case, and trashed his flower shop. It was a great promo where he says, "No retreat, no surrender." You know, almost Scottish, which obviously it wasn't. But
it was obviously it wasn't. I never got that. If anybody I don't know, give us your thoughts on Roddy Piper's gimmick throughout his entire career.
It was weird as a kid because we from England we know what a Scottish person sounds like, so don't try and tell us.
You can be American and be Scottish and have Scottish heritage, and I think that was the whole point, was he was supposed to have Scottish heritage, but. Anyway,
he didn't need it.
No, he didn't need it.
So the loser gets the haircut at the end of this match.
Yeah, it was good. And then they traded sleepers as well towards the end, which was great. Obviously, I thought Adonis. Oddly, I thought Adonis, while Piper was billed as the kind of the last hurrah and the hero, I actually thought it was a great showing for Adonis.
It was a great showing for both. It started off fast with Piper taking off his belt and beating Adonis with his belt, which I think would probably have led to the DQ, but the crowd was so hot for Piper, and especially thinking it would have been his last match. I think there was a sign in the crowd saying, "We'll miss you."
Yeah.
And you didn't see many signs in these days, so the fans had took that out on.
Yeah, it was nice. I mean, it was like I said, the finish was odd. Why would Adonis let go of the sleeper? You know what I mean? That was a weird.
Well, the sleeper spot was interesting. The thing that I enjoyed about the sleeper spot is Piper was constantly fighting. So it was like he was pushing Adonis into the ring post to try and get him off him and stuff like that. And it was one of the better examples, in my opinion, of a sleeper hold. Hulk Hogan to me was always a bit sort of samey with a whole drop of the hand 3 times. Piper was really fighting it, and Adonis was working to it.
Yeah, and like Piper used to flail about, didn't he? He used to flail about if he got caught or something. Like he was trying to fight that, which is good. And then obviously
Brutus comes in.
Piper gets the win with his sleeper, which he slaps onto Adonis after Adonis gives up his.
Well, he thinks that he's won, and then Brutus comes in, helps Piper get up, and kind of refreshes him, and then he wins
by giving him a nice little rub, little shoulder rub,
magic rub,
that magic rub from Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Everyone loves Brutus magic rub.
There we go.
So he gets his magic rub on.
You've gone, haven't you?
So
Adonis. Piper went into him while you calm down. Piper gets into him and hits. Adonis hits himself with his shears that he's got in his hand in the head.
Does he bounce him off the rope or something?
Yeah, I was like, that looks dangerous, man. Don't have them. I hate the shears. I hated them with Brutus the Barber. I was always like, please, no one hurt
I think they were blunted, but that makes sense.
Yeah, but it's still a big metal object, isn't it? You know, wrestling's not real, but let's not have scissors laying around the place.
Totally. It was nice, and then
Brutus comes in, picks up the
shears. The shears.
That moment of handing the torch,
and then
to his new
proceeds to give Adonis the shittest haircut in the world.
It took a while, didn't it?
Literally, I don't know, this brief front part of his hair comes off slightly, but he would just be able to give it a comb over and it would look the same. It was pretty bollocks.
Yeah, well, they were trying for ages to get help, and I think if you can't spend too long on it, can you?
And then Piper chases, Piper comes around with the mirror, and then as
soon as Madonna sees it, punches the mirror.
Adonis sees it, punches the mirror. And then chases Piper around, but no one could catch. You can't catch Roddy Piper.
Well, did you see who did catch Roddy Piper? One of the fans from the audience.
No way.
Dives in, gives Roddy Piper a hug. Roddy Piper celebrating. Yeah, we both won. Roddy Piper starts heading out the ring. Security come in and brutalise this fan that's jumped into the ring. It was just interesting to watch as he was walking away.
It still happens to this day, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Although they got creepier people these days.
Great match. I think it was underrated in terms of WrestleMania 3, but that's partly because the card was so strong.
Stacked.
Absolutely stacked.
Yep.
Okay, so next up we have the Hart Foundation, which was Bret the Hitman Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart. with Danny Davis as well.
Dangerous
Danny Davis. And Jimmy Hart, so there was 4 competitors on that team against the British Bulldogs, which was Davey Boy Smith, Dynamite Kid, and Tito Santana with Matilda, who come down.
So Jimmy Hart, Matilda, basically the same thing for this match.
Hart Foundation in pink spandex for the first time. Yeah, great to see that iconic tag team duo in their outfits.
Very nice.
The Hart Foundation was tag team champions at the point.
Yep.
The British Bulldogs had lost the championship against the Hart Foundation, and Danny Davis was the referee.
Danny Davis was the referee, and he was also the referee for Tito Santana's match with Savage, where Savage won the title. And a lot of those 3 competitors all held Dangerous Danny Davis to account for that. He was the crooked referee, equivalent to there's been a couple of incredible, decent crooked referees in history. Charles Robinson was one in WCW. But similar vibe
Mini
here.
Flair.
Vibe here where the referee for a brief period of time has a few matches. Oddly enough, Dangerous Danny Davis actually had a decent run. He was in the 1987 King of the Ring tournament.
He was.
Following all this, and he defeated Santana and the Junkyard Dog before being knocked out. So he actually had, for a referee he was probably the longest. I'm trying to think. He may have been the longest referee, referee turned wrestler to actually have a series of matches. There's one guy recently, the guy that banged Paige in the sex tape.
Brad Maddox.
Brad Maddox, there you go. Yeah. So he had a couple of those, matches. But anyway, so oddly enough, I got some quite good things to say about Dangerous Danny Davis. I think he was actually all right.
I thought he was.
He sold
really
everything.
Good.
He sold everything so really well. I mean, it was apart from the fact that they won, it was pretty. Bulldogs did a good job of squashing him.
Yeah, they did.
For a period of time.
When they got into the ring, I love this, and I just want to point this out before we go too much into the match. Matilda, this is the first time I've seen Matilda.
Chases
Jimmy Hart and goes after the microphone.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you get a dog to perform?
That was brilliant.
That?
I mean, I'm wondering if there was any food or
if there was some snacks on
snacks on the mic.
But it looked great, and Hart sells it so well by jumping out the ring,
Yeah, totally. And I thought that was fantastic. And like I say, good overall match. Nice finish, actually. I'm gonna give credit to the heel win for this one. I thought the megaphone to the head was good. I'm not really a big fan of, especially in this day and this time we're dealing with, I'm not really a big fan of those sort of DQ finishes or
dusty finishes.
Dusty finishes or the feet on the ropes, which we see a lot here. But the megaphone to the back of the head for a win, for a good heel win.
I thought it worked, and I thought it continued the feud. And out of all these, because you've got like 4 incredible, a manager as well who was absolutely incredible athletes in the ring who were massive throughout WWF history, have runs in the company that last a couple more years. This match, I found myself watching Danny Davis more and really impressed with.
I liked his ring gear too. I like the referee centric ring gear.
Yeah.
So
nice reference.
That was cool. Yes, it was nice match, and one of my favourites, oddly, just because of it was kind of, it shouldn't have worked as well as it did.
No,
but it did.
It worked really great.
It did.
Andre the Giant and Heenan interview.
Yeah.
Heenan, Andre the Giant had become heel, so between the last pay-per-view that we'd watched and now, and he sold his heel really well. Because Andre used to be the smiley man, the genuine man.
Just stopped smiling, didn't he?
Just stopped smiling, and it works.
Yeah, he looks
well.
Yeah, he looks like you just don't want to cross.
No, and it's sort of what I when I think about Andre, I imagine his heel run on.
See, I think face.
Do you?
I was thinking, I always romanticize, I'm like, oh, Andre, the big cuddly giant. But yeah, no, this was intense. There was a recap of a segment that they'd done. When Hogan first discovers he's gone heel, and when he's like, look at me when I'm talking to you, and he picks
it's great.
Hogan's chin up. Great. It's like, man, Andre's on it. So that was good.
Next match
you got Butch Reed and Coco Beware, which was my throwaway match of the event. I thought it was the weakest match on there. No disrespect to Coco Beware, who had a very good career.
It's a shame,
Coco Beware he was very much like George Steele. I think JYD had a lot more success, but I think very much like George Steele, that Koko B. Ware, he had everything. He could fly, he could do technical stuff, and he was a great performer. One of the better performers of that era. Like, excusing the whole flapping thing, which
it was character work.
It was fine for what it was.
Yeah.
I thought he was really good in this match. Butch Reed was good too. He'd just come into the WWE as a package deal with Slick, who was his manager.
Right. Okay.
So they came in together.
Slick was heavily involved in this.
Yeah, and Slick was also a manager, heavily featured on this card. He was managing Volkov and the Sheik. The Sheik. Yeah, thank you. Also on this card. Butch Reed, he kind of come into the WWE. He was billed as the natural Butch Reed, and that was prompted by the blonde hair. He dyed his hair blonde, and he was very, very, very heavy. These gimmicks at that time of these kind of like regal or flamboyant individuals, and Butch Reed was certainly one of those.
I think a lot of that comes from Flair though, and Flair's success with Jim Crockett.
Yeah, I think WWE was trying to build that, so they had Reed dye his hair. Slick is interesting because he was the first African American manager in WWE history.
Oh, right, okay.
And I always liked his work. One of the coolest, and again, this has been redone with wrestlers before. And oddly, there's a weird rumor going around right now that something similar is going to happen to Bray Wyatt. But Slick, he obviously had this dodgy throughout his wrestling managerial career. He was slick, so he had this dodgy, weird kind of gimmick. In the early 90s, 1991, he had kayfabe been body slammed and taken out by Davey Boy Smith. So he had a few months off, and he came back reborn as Reverend Slick. Very similar to how Devon had that when he came back into WWE on a singles run, as he was a born again Christian in real life. And so they made him, and there's a rumor that they're going to work a similar type of gimmick with Bray Wyatt coming up. But anyway,
interesting.
So yeah, I find Slick the most interesting character in this match, not because of the athletes being particularly weak, but I just really like his work. Obviously, Slick, he had the cane.
He was sharply dressed.
Yeah, he was sharply dressed. He was really good.
What comes into later on in the match,
and it was, like I say, it was a solid match.
Well, Koko, a little bit about Koko B. Ware, because again, this is the first time we're covering him. His training partner in the late 70s was the Honky Tonk Man, who again has his first pay-per-view showing later on in the card. Koko had his mascot Frankie, which was a parrot.
Yeah, I love that parrot.
It was as a kid, it was iconic to sort of see Koko B. Ware, and he never really made much of a footprint in the WWF.
I think he does, but I think he did, but it's more of a cult thing,
Yeah, I think he's sort of a good jobber, really, in a way. And that's no offence to him, because you need people to help people put people over, And
he was very good at that too. He was a very good, well-rounded. He was one of the best all-round competitors of that era, in my opinion. And like I say, he was the face. So you had, at the end, you had Tito Santana come in to save Koko B. Ware after, Slick was going to attack him with the cane. And I think it really worked. Again, a good crowd pop moment.
This match was more about Slick and Tito going into a program, really, wasn't it, than it was about the match.
Yeah.
And another little thing about Tito, he joined the WWF in 1986, and he was fired in 1989 after a fight broke out between him and WWF executive Jim Troy, which was on the European tour. Troy had apparently used racial slurs as part of an argument, and it ended up as a big fight. So they got rid of Koko B. Ware, fired him because of this. Troy then later resigned, and Koko B. Ware come back. But just an interesting fact, really. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2009. As I said, he was trained with the Honky Tonk Man.
Rightfully so, too.
Yeah, got inducted by the Honky Tonk Man.
Yeah, the Hall of Fame does tend to recognise people appropriately, I think.
I think he should be recognised.
Yeah,
although he never really reached any sort of
but same with Junkyard Dog, same with George Steele. These people have iconic runs.
Absolutely.
People still play. You can still play Coco Beware on the video games. I think one of the most recent WWE installments, 2K, had a Coco Beware with complete with parrot.
Great,
you could have, So I think
it was iconic when you saw him in his parrot and his colourful clothing, especially in that era, and the bed. If you had it in an annual, because I remember having it in an annual and going, wow, this guy looks cool. It just never had the title success, but that doesn't matter necessarily.
Not these days. No. Well, not well. To be fair, not those days. Not these days. Really, look at Jake the Snake.
No.
But
anyway, the top of the card was so stacked as well.
But like I say, my weakest match of the night. But by no means does that mean the athletes, it's part of it, were terrible. But it was very much about Slick. I thought Slick was billed as he was put across as an incredible heel manager.
Stripped off at the end by Tito Santana,
and Tito Santana has the cane as they run to the back, don't they?
Yeah.
It was good. It was good enough anyway, but nothing compared to the next one, which I'm just going to leave for you to talk about since you basically jizz over it.
I love this match. I think it's incredible. I think it paved the way for wrestling.
One of your favourite matches of all time, isn't it?
I think so, one of, yeah. It's certainly a match that I can go back and watch again and again. I think the ring work is incredible. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat we're talking about, with George the Animal Steel versus Macho Man with Elizabeth. So we've talked a little bit about Macho Man and George the Animal Steel infatuation with Elizabeth and how that had been developing for about a year by this point. This was for the Intercontinental Championship. And the video package showed Macho Man attacking Steamboat. They'd been feuding for several months prior to WrestleMania after Macho Man dropped a ring bell onto Steamboat as he was laying across a barrier, and it crushed his larynx and sent him to hospital.
They actually tried to do something similar, didn't they, during the course of the match?
Yes, with they get the ring bell out again.
Yeah, and Steel saves him, yeah.
And I think that's what... Just going off this match ever so slightly, going to this whole event, I think what this whole event does so well is telling stories. Mm-hmm. Each match has a story to tell that you're invested in, and there's a story behind it, and I think that's great. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat comes out to cheers, of course. Macho Man playing
good promo beforehand as well by Steamboat. You don't really notice Steamboat's promo ability that often. I know it was good, but it was a nice solid promo.
It's very direct,
very good very similar to Hogan in the way that he can, he hooks the fans in with his words. He knows how to use good language, to get people behind him, and it was brilliant.
The two had been working quite a lot on house shows, and what they'd developed is that they'd taken out the best moments of the house shows, and they said, "Oh, that moment really worked well tonight. We'll put that into the play card, if you like," and then. What they do is they test each other. So they had the whole match written out, because this is what's different. In the WWF at the time, there was a lot of matches that were called in the ring. So you'd whisper to a wrestler what's coming next. You'd tap on the back on an Irish whip if he was going to reverse it and stuff like this. This match was basically written out from start to finish, and the two had memorised each of the moments of the match. And that's, for me, part of the reason. If you look at someone like Will Ospreay and stuff like that, the stuff that they can do in
brilliant
the ring is so tight.
Brilliant UK wrestler.
Absolutely. I think that. Go
on a side note, was he briefly going to be in WWE, and then it didn't happen for him? I think he chose not to.
I think he chose not to. Yeah. I can't remember. Yeah.
Someone let us know. Will Ospreay, what happened with that?
So, incredibly fast spots in the ring. The back and forth where they're Irish whipping is insanely good. They're jumping back up, and it really reminds you of...
and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it really reminds you of modern wrestling. And the roll-ups, the roll-up section that comes up later on in the match. So, basically...
It was like a CM Punk Cena type...
It was... It's constant, trying to pin, but then not staying down after a pin. Straight back up on your feet, do another move, try to pin. Doesn't work. Next match, get back up. And because they had it so finely tuned, it looks amazing. George the Animal Steel is my only one real problem with the match.
I like the way he helped the finish.
I don't like the finish because of him. For me, the problem with George the Animal Steel is, first of all, the camera angles at the start feature him quite a lot. And I think that the match going on was so good, it didn't need that extra bit, because he helps him get back into the ring at one point as well.
Yeah.
Incredible backdrop over the top ropes by Macho Man at one point in the match. Steamboat gets a 3-pin. He gets the 3 count after a karate chop from the top rope, But just at the last second, Macho Man gets his foot on the rope. Mm-hmm. The crowd pop there as if Steamboats win, and the match goes on for 5 minutes. That's the sort of excitement that you get from.
It was great, and then when they finally won, it was a great moment. And I like the ending. I like Steele's involvement in it. I thought it was nicely done.
I just think after that match, I would have loved it to have just been a clean win, to be honest with you. There's a great ref bump during it with Dave Ebner bouncing off the rope.
Yeah.
Macho Man does the elbow, but there's no ref to go count it. Macho Man then gets the bell because the ref's out. That's when George the Animal Steel gets involved, pushes him off.
Which leads to Savage going for a body slam and then getting rolled up for the 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
It was nice.
But even with that, it was still quite tight, you know. I love the match. I think you should watch it now. I think it's the highlight of the WWF for many years to come. There are some great... I'm not going to say...
the card too.
Absolutely, easily, yeah. Incredible.
Yep,
it was a standard for years to come.
It was.
Yep.
Moving onwards.
Jake the Snake.
Alice Cooper.
With Alice Cooper. Alice Cooper, for our younger fans, is a old rocker who was from Michigan.
Like the Marilyn Manson of the day.
Marilyn Manson of the day.
Or the Motionless in White of the day, if you're not...
Wow, you're going really common with your references to metal there.
Well, yeah, but it's
younger fans.
You haven't got an Alice Cooper for now, apart from those guys, I don't think.
No, you don't.
Well, you haven't got anyone apart from Rob Zombie, but then like
that's Manson era as well.
Exactly, like anyway. So kids, tell us who the modern day Alice Cooper is, because obviously we're too old. So Jake Roberts with Alice Cooper, Honky Tonk Man with Jimmy Hart. Before you go on to talk about Honky Tonk Man, I'm a massive fan of Jake the Snake as a babyface. I believe this is his one babyface run of that era, or one strong babyface run of that era. Of course, he comes back in the 90s as a born again Christian. There you go, I told you. I think it was the King of the Ring, which of course is the infamous Stone Cold
316.
where after he beats Roberts. Anyway, so Jake the Snake's first face turn in the company, and nicely done. It was his first real run. You've got an interesting factoid about how this rivalry happened, and the guitar that was smashed over Jake Roberts' head. So decent match. Honky Tonk gets the cheap win after Hart interferes, stopping Jake from doing the DDT. I love that DDT.
But we don't see it at WrestleMania 3.
We don't get to see it at WrestleMania 3. I like the way that Cooper gets involved, following the match, where, he helps Jake the Snake put Damien onto Jimmy Hart. Yeah. That was nice. Like I say, the cheap win with the roll up is so common at this time. So Honky Tonk Man gets the cheap win with the roll up. I think his feet are on the ropes. I can't remember how he does it.
I think he has a hand on the ropes.
Hand on the ropes, there you go. So hand on the ropes. Yeah. Cheap win, but decent match. Sets Jake the Snake up as a great face, and Honky Tonk Man as a great heel. What do you got on the Honky
Tonk Man. Well, he made his television debut for WWF in September 1986, so that was a couple of months prior to this. His character was based heavily on Elvis. Which is part of the reason. Well, could you imagine? Yeah. Which is part of the reason Alice was there, because it was the old Rock versus the new Rock type thing. He later on became Intercontinental Champion after defeating Ricky Steamboat, which obviously Steamboat had just won in the match prior. So they showed the video.
They give Honky Tonk Man credit to this day as being one of the greatest. Do they not?
What, Intercontinental Champions? Yeah. I don't know if I'd say he was the greatest. No, I'd say that his ending to his Intercontinental title reign is amazing, and propels a future superstar into stardom. But that's for another episode.
Anyway,
so they show the video at the start of the match, which has the guitar breaking over the head in the Snake Pit, which was Jake the Roberts talk show. We have them nowadays with the highlight reel and Miz TV. Back then, you had Piper's Pit, the Flower Shop, and Snake Pit as one of a few. So they'd gone out to get this guitar that was supposed to be rigged. If you look at like Jeff Jarrett's guitar hits later on, the guitars explode on impact. This guitar that they was actually using didn't wasn't rigged, or Honky Tonk Man says it was rigged. Jake the Snake insists that it wasn't rigged. Basically, I think it was Pat Patterson's boyfriend, who was a prop buyer, had gone out to buy a guitar, and he'd said that he didn't want to buy a cheap guitar because he wanted it to be a nice guitar to look good for Honky Tonk Man. And then it wasn't, because normally if you was to rig a guitar, you'd either buy a cheap nasty guitar that was flimsy, or you'd scour it on the inside so that it'd break. This was a fiberglass guitar that was very heavy. So in the episode of Snake's Pit, you see the Honky Tonk Man crack Jake the Snake over the head with it, and the guitar basically folds in a little bit on top, but it damaged some of his vertebrae in his neck.
You could see Jake was in a lot of pain.
Straight away.
You said before filming, Jake blames this for his addictions.
He says that that's when he started to rely on pain medication.
Catalyst for it, yeah.
Yeah, so, and then after the pain medication, he'd medicate himself with alcohol and
we all know how that ended for him.
And other stuff. Honky Tonk Man doesn't like to say that it was that bad. Honky Tonk Man, you'll see certain interviews where he'll still say that the guitar was rigged and it was fine and stuff like that. It's really weird.
One. Anyway, I think we can. I changed my mind on this one. This was probably my weakest.
The Jake the Snake and Honky?
No. I mean, I was going to move forward, but
just one more little bit about Jake the Snake and Honky.
Oh, cool,
the end of the match has Jimmy Hart in a full Nelson by Jake the Snake that we talked about.
We should probably.
But Hart actually injured his neck. He had a real.
You see, I told you the full Nelson was a beast.
It wasn't because of that. It was because he was trying to get away from a snake. So he had a real life fear of snakes and trying to get away from it. Actually, but it looks great when Alice is approaching him with a snake and Jake's just sort of holding him and he's throwing it around.
They don't actually get the snake to Jimmy. So Jake has to take it. The paw. I hate snakes, but that paw thing must have endured.
It's hard to watch.
So much shit over the years, So Jake literally chucks him, throws him at Jimmy, and I think it hits him slightly.
Yeah, it lands on him and he sort of kicks him off, and then he falls.
So it looks good, but then obviously poor snake is there.
It's not very nice to watch.
I think, like I say, it was a nice match. Following up,
another little bit about him, because I just thought it was an interesting fact. When he got hit with a guitar, because it was a fiberglass guitar, the fiberglass shattered. And apparently Jake the Snake was picking it out of his back for weeks.
Oh, you said his girlfriend was running it.
She'd run her fingers along his back and and he'd go, ow, I feel it. And then she'd have to get a pair of tweezers and pull it out. It's nasty, man. Nasty stuff. And so it was hard for, knowing all that, to sort of watch the segment where he gets hit over the head again.
It's difficult. I think a lot of the times these incredible salaries that these sports entertainers
deserve,
because obviously the schedule, and stuff like that. When you hear about that, it's pretty intense, isn't it?
Yeah. Next up, we had an announcement of the attendance record by Mean Gene Okerlund, an indoor world record attendance of 93,173, which beat the Rolling Stones at the time, and I don't believe it was beat until there was some sort of Pope meeting somewhere, which was indoor a couple of years later.
Pope meeting.
Here's an interesting fact. So to get people from Michigan to go to the arena to watch it, as opposed to paying for pay-per-view and watching it at home, they wouldn't stream the pay-per-view to Michigan, which is part of the reason they had such large numbers. So if you was in Michigan at the time and you wanted to watch the culmination of the Andre Hogan feud, which had been massive, you had to go to the arena.
That was business. Hey, good business, Vinnie Mac.
Clever.
So we've got Volkov and the Sheik versus the Killer Bees, Brian Blair and Jim Brunzell. You did this last time. I should know this by now. The Killer Bees, we love them. Yeah. And Volkov and the Sheik, probably one of the greatest heel teams of all time.
They could certainly draw heat.
Yeah, totally. This is. You know what? I'm changing my mind. I tried to get to this, but we weren't done with the much better Snake Honky Tonk Man match because I kind of want to get through this one. I'm changing this one. This is my throwaway. Not because I don't like Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I like Hacksaw Jim Duggan, but and this had its place at WrestleMania, like every WrestleMania where you have a Russian come through. It happens with it's about to happen with Rusev Cena at Battleground, and it's happened many times before, where you have the Russian, and of course he's about to, so Volkov is about to do his national anthem, which of course all the people in America, all the Americans, they all hate it, and they're like, oh, you go back to Russia, you terrible Russian. Oh, it's ridiculous. Anyway, so
so Hacksaw Jim Duggan comes out,
so Hacksaw comes up, stops him from doing it, and then stays out there with his 2x4, not minding his own bloody business.
It took away a little bit from the match, didn't it?
Bloody Duggan, it's Sheik with the 2. So Sheik's about to steal the thing. He's about to, not steal the thing, he's about to win it cleanly with a submission, probably with that.
The camel clutch.
The devastating camel clutch.
Yep.
And Duggan's like, nope, 2x4 to the back, costing the Killer Bees. But of course, because it's WrestleMania, no one gives a fuck. Killer Bees are like, yeah, 2x4, woo, America, yeah. And Duggan's like, oh, with his thumb up and all
it's
that.
Weird, isn't it? Because it's a massive heel move that they try and turn into a face reaction.
But it doesn't matter because it's WrestleMania in America, and they're all so patriotic.
Yeah, I think it was okay. I thought the match was okay. I think Nikolai and the Sheik were such solid workers that the match is okay. I think I agree with you. I don't think there was any need for Hacksaw there.
It was what? I didn't. No, I know why he was there, because it's like I said, it's been recycled so many times. You want to draw some heat to the team. Like I said, I don't agree with it. I've never agreed with angles like that, but I understand why they're on television, because of patriotism and all that stuff. But I agree. I understand from a Vince McMahon standpoint. He's like, oh, We're gonna get those Russians. We're gonna hit them with a 2x4. Everyone's gonna like it because I'm Vince McMahon, and Russia can suck my balls at my pay-per-view. Duggan, take your massive tool out and hit the Sheik with it, and then we're gonna get a big crowd pop. So that's basically what happens. Duggan comes out, smashes the Sheik, gets the DQ win for the Sheik and Volkov. Killer Bee's like, yeah, like I said, they're all happy about it because whatever. Fucking wrestling, and they leave together happily, holding Duggan's massive 2x4.
Well, I've been doing a bit of research recently because we've talked about it a few times, especially with Volkov and watching back, and about even earlier wrestlers than him that we use in the heel American, and going back to like I think is it Von Schmidt or someone like that from 1939 who was no. I'm going back to 1939. Von Schmidt, who was basically a Nazi. Jeez. Or Ali Baba, who was sort of the first anti-American heel in early 1900s, late 1900s. Really interesting stuff. Really interesting stuff. Really good read. I might bring it up a bit more.
I'd like to say that stuff wasn't happening so much these days, but
it sort of is.
I'm a massive fan of I'm a massive fan of Jinder Mahal, and I'm a massive fan of what he's doing, of course. But he's running that whole angle these days, isn't he?
He's not the only one.
That's true.
Rusev, Kevin Owens at the minute.
Yeah.
So it happens. I might bring it up.
It's
in
good
a bit
TV.
more.
It's good TV drawing. But anyway, as much as I said it was my throwaway match, we've probably talked about it the most. But I understand why it was there on the pay-per-view, but I don't necessarily agree with it. But and it was a weird finish, and the Killer Bees. Like I say, I know they're a face team, but they should have been pissed. I would have been pissed if Duggan had got his 2x4 out.
Yeah, it was,
for me. But it
was a throwaway match before the main event.
Yeah,
and the main event is Hulk Hogan against Andre the Giant with Bobby Heenan. Yeah. Now, this match is massive in wrestling history.
I don't really know why.
Really?
I'm sorry, everyone. It's a body slam and a leg drop, man. Yeah. Like let's just break that. Like, I'm sorry. I don't have t-shirts and millions of fans like Hulk Hogan does, and I've never made a sex tape yet. But and I'll never have the legacy that Andre the Giant does, and I prefer Andre the Giant's legacy, especially with regards to this time. I think Andre the Giant was incredible, and I still think he's one of the better big men next to the Big Show. As a performer, obviously he wasn't very technical, but anyway, I literally, this match is Hogan taking a bear hug, getting the upper hand, body slamming Andre.
Well, I think,
and getting the leg drop. Like I get it. I really same with the previous. I get why it's massive, and I get the build-up was better. The build-up was better massive. Than the match. Like Andre, you said it. Andre was an incredible heel.
He hadn't been defeated for 15 years.
Yeah.
So
I understand
why.
We're
talking about an Undertaker streak here. In fact, more so than an Undertaker streak, because it's not about a guy winning at a pay-per-view once a year. This is a guy who has won every match for 15 years.
Yeah,
that's bigger than the Undertaker streak.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, but then Andre was wrestling regularly.
Yeah,
you could, Undertaker wasn't wrestling regularly, and also, so yeah, it's a big deal. It's a bigger deal. It's a bigger deal to me than the streak. But then at the same time, those matches on the from the Undertaker's perspective, the Undertaker worked hard.
He did work hard. Andre worked hard though when he could.
Yeah, Andre worked hard when he could. Yeah, I'm not dissing. I'm certainly not dissing Andre. I'm dissing. Like, am I dissing Hogan? I don't know. But we all know.
I think you're dissing the match. We all know.
We all know what Hogan's. I can do Hogan's repertoire in a minute. 3 punches, on the ropes, big boot. Leg drop, 1, 2, 3, and that's a Hogan match, man. That is a Hogan match.
I get that.
1 minute. That was about less than a minute, right?
It was the build up to the event. You look at matches like the Brock Lesnar versus the match wasn't great. What was great was the storyline that involved the streak. And in the same respect, this had so what had happened?
Yeah, like I said, the storyline was better. Anyway.
Hogan had been on Piper's Pit and had been given an award, a massive trophy for being the champion for 3 years. The week after, Jack Tunney gave Andre an award for being undefeated for 15 years, and this was a tiny trophy in compared to Hogan's. Andre had basically said, this isn't right. Gone to Hogan and said, I'm going to go for your championship. Now, Andre had never been for a championship before. So this divides like old school fans between new school fans straight away, which is interesting in itself. There's a great moment on Piper's Pit where he comes in and he's staring him down and he rips his shirt off and his cross.
So that happens because Jesse Ventura promises, what's the build? So he promises a new Andre, he promises a heel Andre.
Yeah. And also Bobby the Brain Heenan had started to get into Andre's ear that he was going to be able to defeat Hulk Hogan, and then Bobby the Brain would have a champion who was within his family.
Yeah. And so he was going to. So Jesse Ventura was going to deliver a heel or changed Andre to Piper's Pit the next week.
That's right.
And of course, Roddy was going to deliver Hogan, and that's what led to that.
It's a great stare down, Pit, and you should watch it.
Yeah,
and
totally.
Andre grabs his shirt, but he also grabs the cross that Hogan always used to wear. So again, you've got religious symbology in this as well.
And then Hogan goes to his knees like, "What are you doing, Andre? Why are you doing this, man?"
Yeah.
And
basically,
that was really well
at that point, he accepts the title match. And there's a great moment that isn't showed on the promo in WrestleMania 3, but just afterwards, Roddy Piper's, because he's interviewing him, and he notices that as Andre's pulled off the cross from his chest, it's left a little blood. And there's a trickle of blood coming from Hogan, and Piper does it brilliantly, and he just says, "You're bleeding." And that's how the interview ends. And it's almost like you've got this superstar that no one can defeat, and suddenly Andre's come, grab something, and it's making him bleeding with the religious symbology in it. It's massive. It's huge, a massive main event. And I think that's what people don't get about this match, because it is a difficult match to watch.
I'm not a great fan of Hogan's. Sorry, Terry, if you're watching this at all, mate, but I'm not a great fan of his work in general. But
he could cut a promo.
Totally. But that whole thing where Roddy Piper's like, "Are you gonna face Andre the Giant at WrestleMania?" And Hogan goes, "Yeah." I was like, "That's all right, man. That's okay."
It's good.
That was good.
But Andre nearly didn't wrestle because he'd gone to film Princess Bride and his back was giving him so many problems. Yes, it was filmed in London. Yeah, Vince had persuaded him to join, and he basically said, look, we're thinking of giving you this heel run, and it'll be the last sort of thing that you'll have to do. And it went on for a couple of years, the Hogan-Andre feud, and there was a bit of back and forth as well. But this was massive news. This was like front page news the next day that Hogan had managed to slam Andre the Giant. And I don't even think it was the first time. I can't remember the dates, but I think Andre had been slammed before.
Yeah.
But this was a slam that was massive news.
The body slam heard around the world.
Yeah.
I don't think they'd ever made such a big deal out of a simple body slam.
Oh, they did. And this is what I said to you in WrestleMania 1.
There was John Studd.
John Studd
was the
It was John Studd and Andre.
Andre, it was, and Andre had to slam John Studd. And then post that it was Yokozuna, wasn't it? It was Hogan slamming Yokozuna.
Yeah, that was massive. Or Lex Luger slamming.
And then I think Hogan had a go, but wasn't Yokozuna the end? Yokozuna was the end of Hulkamania. That was the dominant. When Yokozuna came into the WWF or whatever we're going to call it, with Mr. Fuji later on. Anyway, so repackaged Mr. Fuji and Yokozuna, and that was signalled in sort of the early 90s as the end of Hulkamania.
Oh yeah, I think Hart as well.
And Yokozuna was the next. Andre,
monster.
Post Andre.
And what was clever about Yokozuna is it was a different figure, a different shadow to what Andre was.
It was anyway. So I'm not gonna lie. I don't like the match, man. I body slam heard around the world. Okay.
Yeah.
Build up, brilliant. The build up was the hype that you're talking about. The build up to me was the hype that everybody talks about. And how great this match is. The match was great because of the build-up.
It was, yeah. But sometimes that's okay.
Yes, sometimes that's okay.
And for this one, especially to get the slam and then to get the slam and then straight away get the leg drop, it's iconic. It's them 9 seconds of wrestling is the most iconic event of the 1980s. And I'm not saying it's the best event, but it's the most iconic possibly of all of the WWF.
Yes, it is.
And it's that moment that helped everything that had built up to it. It's that moment that pushed WWF into the mainstream massively.
And I think it probably can be credited as the validation for a lot of post that time talk shows. You know, the Piper's Pit was the inspiration for a lot of great segments.
Yeah, and then the barbershop.
And the barbershop, and then was that the Rock? You see, I was going to reference the Rockers.
The Rockers with the barbershop.
Was that the barbershop with the
windows,
and then Mike J. See, there you go. That. So that. You know, the Piper's Pit with Hogan and Andre, and then the barbershop with the Rockers. You know, I think that was some really
and the Snake Pit and the whole Piper feud had been over the flower shop. So it was a massive part of the WWF. And I think that's part of the reason we're going back and covering these, because as we sort of said in the introduction video, but just a sort of reminder to reinforce that statement, you can't necessarily get all of the information from watching just the pay-per-view. You need to sort of look at it as a bigger thing. If you're watching it, and that's what I love about WrestleMania 3, if you're watching it from our point of view in our time with no knowledge of what's happened, you still have matches of great wrestling.
Yeah, where we haven't seen that before in the Gimme a Whole Year podcast, I don't think.
Exactly. And then you've got also this moment in history which helped move the WWF forward.
Yes.
One little fact about, well, it's not little fact, it's a massive fact about the Slam. Apparently, Andre tore his latissimus dorsi performing the Slam.
Is that right? Did Anthony get it right?
Probably not.
Audience.
Which is a big muscle in your back.
What, by getting slammed?
By getting slammed, yeah.
So, well, to be fair, that probably didn't happen to him very often.
Yeah, well, he had so many difficulties. He was really in pain. And one of the things I appreciate Andre for in this match is I think a lot of his prior matches that we've watched, he's leaning in the side of the ropes a lot, and he stands tall a lot in this match. Apparently he'd been drinking a hell of a lot before the match as well, which probably helped ease the pain, because he was going through a real difficult time. He basically said to Vince, I don't want to come back, I just want to go home and die. You know, which is awful. But
what a lovely way to end the podcast, man. But
yeah,
there you go.
But now he came back, and he had and this back and forth with Hogan lasted for a while. Hulk celebrates with his normal celebration, and it was Hulkamania at its absolute
running
peak.
Wild, brother.
Running wild.
Yeah.
And a great moment. So I've sort of said what I think of the pay-per-view. What do you think of the pay-per-view in general?
Best one we've had. 4 out of 5 gay stars. 4 out of 5 gay stars.
Okay, so give me a whole year stars. The gay star system, you're giving it 4 stars. What was your match of the night? Don't upset me or I'm going to DDT you.
Steamboat Savage.
It's got to be, man. It's amazing.
Yeah, Steamboat Savage. I mean, anything with Jake the Snake as a face in it at that time was killer, but more on the promo side of it. Yeah, just looking back. Yeah. Gotta be.
Well, I was debating the star system, and I was thinking about breaking it. No, I think
break the gay stars, man.
I think I'd have to give it a 4.5 stars. I think it's
why 4.5? Why not 5?
Why not 5? Because I do think there's no room for improvement then. And
there's always room for improvement.
I do think if you haven't seen this WrestleMania, you should go back and watch it and enjoy it. I think you can enjoy it in this day and age, and with some of the pay-per-views that we've watched so far, I wouldn't necessarily advise you to watch it.
Yeah.
If you was to watch one match, I'd say watch the Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and Macho Man match because it paved the way forward. And I'd also say watch the Hulk and Andre match because that moment, and certainly the promos building up to it, and go back and watch some of the promos.
Man. We'll go watch the promos. Especially like Jake the Snake Honky Tonk Man promos are solid. It's all solid.
It's
all solid.
It's a great card,
yeah.
And I don't think the WWF could do much to beat it. And it paved the way forward for wrestling.
This is a better pay-per-view than some of what they put out these days.
Yes, agreed. Don't watch Money in the Bank 2017. Go watch WrestleMania 3 again.
Instead, yeah.
There we go.
Awesome. Cool. Don't forget to follow us and find us on patreon.com/givemeawholeyear, facebook.com/givemeawholeyear, twitter.com/givemeawholeyear.
And let us know your thoughts. Yeah. Let us know if you think this was as good as we're saying.
Absolutely.
Or overrated.
And if you struggle to find us, just Google Gimme a Whole Year. We're big time now with our few fans, but we're very grateful for all of you. So thank you very much for tuning in.
Yep.
Thanks for supporting. We will have t-shirts and stuff coming up soon, which you can have if you like. See you soon, and keep it gay.